Illumination's newest film, Super Mario Brothers. This is, of course, the second time this property has been adapted into film. Well, technically three. There was an anime-type movie that came out, like, in the 90s or 80s or something, and it was terrible. But this is the second time it's gotten a full Hollywood release, with the first one being the 1993 live-action movie that is... let's be nice and call it a steaming pile of shit. Because that's about as nice as I can put it for that movie. Maybe I'll do a video on that movie someday, I don't know, but Illumination, again, is kind of up and down for me. I know there's some people who hate the company, and I know there's some that like it. I'm indifferent to it. Like, they have movies I like. I like the Despicable Me movies. I liked Minions 2. I liked Sing 2. And I like The Grinch. There are other movies, like, they have a lot of bad ones. They have The Lorax, they had Hop, which were god-awful, and Minions was bad, and the Secret Life of Pets movies weren't very good, so they're, like, dead in between for me. I don't hate them, I don't love them, they exist, essentially. So, but this one I had a ton of hype for, because this looked awesome. And, yeah, it's pretty damn good. Now, video game movies, like, now, used to be, like, just objectively terrible. Every single one of them that came out was awful. Nowadays, it's kind of in between. Like, we got Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which was good. First one's still garbage, but the second one was good. Mortal Kombat was awful. This was good. Angry Birds 2 was good, Uncharted was terrible, and Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City was awful, so it's kind of a balancing act here. Honestly, the more I think about it, it seems like the ones that are directed more towards kids are the ones that are better, and I'll get back to that in a second. And something I want to talk about before I talk about the movie itself is the reviews. Now, I don't give two shits about what critics think of movies, but in this case, I like to highlight inconsistencies because critics have no morality. They don't give a shit about morals. They are there to suck off to the big artsy bullshit movies and to certain directors, and any other movie, they just don't give a shit. So, I'm gonna give a comparison for this, and it's to Avatar: The Way of Water. So, Avatar: The Way of Water, everybody made a big deal about how it's this grand masterpiece because of the visuals. The visuals are so good that the fact that it has a thin story doesn't mean anything. But when it comes to this movie, the critics are saying that the story is so thin that the visuals don't help it. So one movie can be praised and hailed as a masterpiece for having great visuals and barely a story, but another movie can't be hailed as a masterpiece for having good visuals and a thin story? Blow me. And speaking of that, people complain about this movie having a thin story. How deep and complex was the story of the video game? The video game was literally, guy saves princess from big monster. That's the plot of the video game. Here, it's actually a bit different. He's off to save Luigi, and he's keeping Bowser from essentially taking over all of the kingdoms, so there's at least more to the story than the video game. But yeah, and also something funny that came out of this was John Leguizamo, who played the original Luigi, poorly might I add. He's making a big deal how he's boycotting the movie because they didn't cast Latinos, despite the fact they're not Latinos, they're Italian, jackass. And even here, they're not Italian, they're from Brooklyn, so they're like Italian-American, so I don't know what this guy's complaining about. And the box office really shows that no one gives a shit what that second-rate comedian thinks. $200 million in 5 days. It's already going to be the top grossing movie of the year so far by tomorrow. So, yeah, that's all you need to know. So, let's actually get into the movie, he says 4.5 minutes into this review. Like I said, it's good. And you know why? Because it gives the audience exactly what they want. This isn't like fucking Uncharted, where it gave teases and references to what could have been. Now, I always love when adaptations make changes. This one does make changes, but it's the simple fact that it has the spirit of the game. Uncharted did not. It was too much like Spider-Man, and I don't think that was an accident. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City was just a bad movie. Mortal Kombat had nothing, like barely had any of the gory fight scenes that people want, apart from like 2 decent action sequences, and had a garbage story. Angry Birds 2 gave people what they want. It was much better than the first movie, might I add. And what was the other? Sonic the Hedgehog, I hated, because, like, I'm not a huge Sonic fan, but it just stuck this fucking blue hedgehog in a car for another one of these stupid 90s road trip movies that I can't stand. And it was boring as hell, it was frustrating to sit through, and it wasn't funny. The second movie got a lot more creative and took him out of that stupid-ass car and allowed him to go on adventures. Like, he didn't go to any, like, magical kingdoms or anything, but he went to, like, Siberia and to, like, I don't know what other island. He, like, went to islands where they had all these cool visuals and everything. It was more like the game. That's why I hated the first movie, and that's why I liked the second movie. And again, this movie, unlike the original, it gave fans what they want. This is fan service done right. Unlike Star Wars, where it's not fan service, it's pandering, or fandering. No, I'm not going to use that term again. But it's fan service done wrong. This one is exactly what you want, and that's why this movie works, is because it doesn't pretend to be anything more. Like I said, Avatar: The Way of Water barely has a story, but acts like it has all these deep, complex themes that you need to watch the movie multiple times in order to figure out, and that's what the critics sucked off to as well. This movie doesn't pretend to be a deep, complex story with a ton of morals that'll make you think more deeply about the world. It's just here to have fun for 90 minutes, and that's all people want out of Hollywood nowadays, because everything is so overly political that it's ridiculous, and to the point where Hollywood isn't entertaining. That's why so many movies have been flopping at the box office recently. This one, it's making bank. $200 million domestically after 5 days. I think it's like 470 something million worldwide. I didn't check. I just checked the domestic. But over $200 million in 5 days. That is insane, especially for this movie. Now, we all knew it was going to be a big hit, but that is insane. This movie, I don't know if it'll track all the way to $1 billion, but I would not be surprised if it did. Because, again, audience score 96%. People love this movie. So, I should probably actually talk about the movie itself. Again, I already talked, the animation looks fantastic. This is probably Illumination's best looking movie. All of the voice acting is pretty good for the most part. The only problem is, every once in a while, and this is with every character, well, almost every character, there are at least a few lines that probably could have used an extra take or two. Like, even ones like Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Pratt, Charlie Day, all of them, there are at least a few lines that needed maybe a couple more takes. But Jack Black as Bowser, he was great. I'm really shocked at Black's range in this movie, and the way they write him is incredibly funny, because they make him this domineering threat to everybody, but they also make him a huge simp for Princess Peach, essentially. It's pretty funny. And Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong was the only casting choice I didn't like, because I don't like Seth Rogen. It wasn't like inherently I thought this was a terrible choice, I just don't like Seth Rogen as a person. But honestly, I can give it credit for the fact that his voice acting was actually good, to the point where I was forgetting it was Seth Rogen, so good in there. But like I said, Chris Pratt and Charlie Day were, of course, two controversial casting choices, but they did really, really well. And Anya Taylor-Joy did pretty well as Princess Peach, and Keegan-Michael Key did a pretty good job as Toad. I don't know if they did, like, some modifying to his voice or if that's all him, but it was pretty good. And the thing about this is, people were upset that they didn't bring back the original voices. Had they had the original voice of Mario in there, I feel like I would have gotten really fucking annoyed. So they didn't have him do the Italian accent. They gave him more the Brooklyn accent, like they do in like the animated shows and even in the live action movie. Because I think even they knew, it's like, if we hear this voice for 90 minutes, we're all gonna get annoyed, and this is gonna be insufferable to sit through. The action sequences are a lot of fun, from the opening fight scene to the fight with Donkey Kong to the Rainbow Road fight was probably my favorite fight scene in the movie. And I like how they use Mario's different like suits. Like they have the Tanuki suit, is that what it's called? The raccoon with the tail, with the helicopter tail. They even used the cat suit, and during the fight with Donkey Kong, like you see in the trailer. One thing I forgot to mention, with the voice acting is the guy who plays Cranky Kong. He got on my nerves. He was like yelling every line at the top of his lungs, and it got a little irritating. I think that was the point where someone needed to tell him, dude, dial it the hell down. Like, I get it, he's playing a monkey, but that was the only one who got on my nerves. Even Toad didn't get on my nerves, and he always annoys me in the video games. So props to Key for that. What else? One thing I do say is that they changed the trope of Princess Peach being captured, and this time it's Luigi. I do think that was a smart move because Mario and Luigi already have a connection, so, and this time it's him meeting Peach, so I'm assuming in the sequel they'll have Princess Peach be captured or something. But I don't know, because this movie's already made its money back, so there is going to be a sequel to this, I guarantee it. So, and you know what? I am totally on board with a sequel. I want to see a sequel to this. But, so I do think that was a smart move because it gives Mario, like, more incentive. Had it been Princess Peach being captured and him being, like, recruited by the Toads to go save her, I feel like it wouldn't have made a lot of sense because they don't know each other. There's no connection there. So, I like the subversion, I guess. God, I hate using that word. Last Jedi ruined the word subversion. God, I hate Last Jedi so much. But, not sure if there's much else to talk about with this movie other than just go see it for yourself. If you're a Mario fan, you've probably already seen this movie. Again, it's making bank at the box office. But if you haven't seen it, go see it as soon as possible. Like, even if you're not a Mario fan, a lot of these references are probably going to go over your head because a lot of them like aren't really like explained references. They're just like quick moments. I forgot to mention that my theater experience was kind of shitty because for some reason, some asshole behind me and her daughter or whatever decided that it was necessary for them to verbally point out every single fucking reference to the game whenever it appeared on screen. I'm serious, every single fucking time. It got on my nerves, but that doesn't detract from the movie at all. Again, this movie is fantastic. Go see it. This is one of Illumination's best. It might even be my favorite one, even beating Despicable Me. I'm giving the Super Mario Bros. Movie an A-. Thank you all so much for watching. And what do you think of the Super Mario Bros. Movie? I'm assuming a lot of you have seen it at this point. And yeah, I will see y'all next time. Bye.